Okay, starting the checkup practice problems on the 1.3, it's starting with a picture of a graph and it says, what is the slope of the line in the graph below? Show your work. So again, we can just go ahead and do drawing, or you can pick 2 points and use the slope formula, whichever you're most comfortable with. But so if I choose this dot here as a starting point, and then we're just counting up and over until we hit the next corner, maybe over here, I'm counting up to and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I would write my slope as m equals 2 over 5. What is the slope of the line represented by the table of values below? And how do you know? So here we are going to also look at now a table of values where we want the change in y. So m is equal to the change in y over the change in x. So let's go and subtract two values. Now you can do something like 4.5 minus 3, but I like sticking to whole numbers. So I'm actually going to do 6 minus 3 over 0 minus negative 2 for mine. 6 minus 3 on the top. That's my y minus y over 0 minus negative 2. So that's going to be 3 over 2, because negative times negative equals positive 2. So when we use a table of values, you just have to do subtract 2 of the y's and then subtract 2 of the x's. I like to stick to whole numbers instead of decimals. Okay, which of the following graphs could be the graph of y equals negative 4x minus 5? Circle the letter of your answer that explains. So we have this first graph here, which is a horizontal line. That's a zero slope graph. We have this next line here, which is a positive sloping graph. So this is not our graph. And then we have these two graphs, which are negative sloping. This graph has a negative slope and a negative y-intercept. And this graph has a negative slope and a positive y-intercept. So this one is not our graph. This one is our graph, because our equation was y equals negative 4x minus 5. So it has to have that negative y-intercept as well. So this is our graph. And if you want, you can just circle the letter C. Okay, on this next one, I put in a couple formulas that we just want to be reminded of as we work through these. Write the equation of the line that passes through these 2 points, and then, so first we need slope formula to calculate the slope, then we're plugging it into point slope and slope intercept form. So let's go do slope formula first. So this is my x1, y1. This is my x2, y2. So x sub 1, comma, y sub 1. Oh, way too tiny. So cute. And then this other one is x sub 2, y sub 2. So here I go plug in into this equation over here. So m equals y minus y over x minus x. So 2 minus 7 on the top equals negative 5 over negative 4. And so my final slope is positive 5/4. Now that I have this slope calculated out, now I can go plug into this equation. So there's two forms of the point slope that we need to be familiar with. One is when the y1 is on this side, one is when the y1 is at the end. We've been working mainly with this one in Math 1. So we would go y minus 7, that's my y1 from up here, equals 5/4 times x minus x1. And then another variation of this one would be the other form of point slope, where it's just y equals 5/4 x minus x1 plus the y1 at the end. So notice this negative 7 can get added on to the end here. Now the slope-intercept form would be if I distributed this all the way through. So 5 times negative 3 would be negative 15/4. So y equals negative 15/4 x u. And then plus 7, I'm sorry, hello. Y equals 5/4 x minus 15/4. So that's distributing this right here. And then it's plus 7, but I want to put this in terms of fourths. So if I do 7 times 4, that's 28/4. My final answer for this guy is combining negative 15/4 plus 28/4. And so I'm getting 13/4. How'd you do? Okay. What is the slope of a line that is perpendicular to this? Show your work. So when we have a slope of 3/4, the slope of a line perpendicular is the negative reciprocal. Hint, perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. So the negative reciprocal, oops, I need the text box, hang on. Of of 3/4 would be when we flip it and make it a negative. Were you thinking negative 4/3? You got it. So what would be the slope of a line that is perpendicular to this? We flip it and make it a negative. Now write the equation of a line passing through this point and parallel to this. So parallel slopes, parallel lines have the same slope. So we're going to use a slope of 3/2, something equal to this equation that we already have. And so here we go, y equals 3/2 x plus, what's that y-intercept? 0, 6. Boom. Here's a parallel line to my original line. It's going through the y-intercept of 0, 6. Some students like to write this as in point slope form, as y equals 3/2 x minus 0 plus 6. Plugging in that x1 and that y1 straight up from this point, well, guess what? If I distribute this out and simplify it, it is this. Both these equations are valid answers. Whichever one you like to write is perfect. One is just more simplified than the other. All right, on this one, which of the following tables of values could be generated by a linear function, and how do you know? So on this one, I'm looking to see if it has a constant rate. Do these tables have a constant rate of change? Is the question that we're asking ourselves. So starting with this first one, going from a -3 to a -5, going from a -5 to a -7, etc. This would be a change of -2. Your change in y is -2. Now on the left-hand side, which we also need to look at, this one is going up 1 per jump. So this is going up or actually technically down at a constant rate. So I would say here that my slope is -2 over 1, or just -2. So this one would be linear because it has a constant rate. All right, let's go look at this next one. This one jumps up 2, up 3, up 4, up 5 for every 1. This is not going up at the same rate. It's going up a different number for every jump. So in this case, this one is not linear, no constant rate. And finally, this one goes from 1 to 1, from 1 to 1, from 1 to 1, from 1 to 1. In fact, when you have the same y value for all these x values, you have a horizontal line. So it is linear. All right, for number 8, for each table in number 7 that could have been generated by a linear, calculate the slope of the line produced for that function. So this first one, we already calculated the slope, m equaled -2. And what does the slope of a slope of a horizontal line have? So let's go type in m equaled -2 for the first one. And then when it's a horizontal line, it just equals slope of 0. All right, let's look at some context-based. The cost of hosting a dinner in a particular restaurant is given by this function, where x is the number of people at dinner and y is the dollars. What is the slope of the function, and what does it mean in context? The slope of the function is the 18.5 for the 1850. It represents the cost per person, which is 1850 per person. The slope in this case, the thing that is changing, is the cost per person, and that's based on how many people go. The cost of hosting a dinner in a particular restaurant is given by this. What is the y-intercept of this function, and what does it mean? The y-intercept is 250, and that means that there is a fixed starting cost of $250 before you even look at a cost of per person. Write the equation of the line that is parallel to the x-axis and goes through this point. So let's sketch this out here real quick and see what this would look like. So a line that is parallel to the x-axis and goes through the point 1, 4. So out 1 and up 4. So what would the equation of that line be? Just y always equals 4. Horizontal line is a y equals line. Does the point 2, 6 lie on the line that connects 1, 4 and 0, 3. Explain. So first let's get a slope using this little slope formula. And so we go 3 minus 4 on top. Divided by 0 minus 1. So that is going to give me negative 1 over negative 1. So that's just 1. So here we go with a slope of 1, and we can use either point. So I go y equals 1x plus 3, and there's my equation of the line using this point. Now they're asking if 2, 6 is on that line. So 6 is my y, and 2 plus 3. Does 2 plus 3 equal 6? Nope. So does this point lie on this line? No. 2, 6 is not on this line. Which of the following pairs of lines are perpendicular? How do you know? So here we have a 2/3 slope, and here we have a negative 3. These are not perpendicular because there's no perpendicular slopes. 1/3 and negative 3, these are negative reciprocal slopes. So this is perpendicular. Finally, 3 and 1/3, it's missing a negative. These are not perpendicular because there's not negative reciprocal slopes. Jeremy uses this linear function so he can earn an exam, the function of h, the number of hours he spends studying. So identify the slope and y-intercept of Jeremy's function and explain what it means in context. So the slope is 12, and the y-intercept is 50. This means that Jeremy will earn 50 on the exam if he doesn't study, like with no studying at all. And for each hour that he does study, it will increase his score by 12 points for each hour that he studies. So with no studying at all, he just has a flat 50. With any studying after that, for each hour, it goes up by 12 points. So if Jeremy studies for 3 hours for the exam, how much does he expect to earn as far as a score? So he gets the 50 no matter what, plus 3 hours times the 12 that he earns. So 3 times 12 is 36. 36 plus 50, his score would be 86 if he studied for 3 hours. How many hours should he study if he wants to get a perfect score? So if he wants an output of 100, my unknown is the x, so subtract 50 from both sides. and then divide by 3. We get a decimal answer, which is fine. It would basically say, oh, I'm sorry, you guys, I keep using 3 instead of 12. It's 12 per hour. So when I divide 50 by 12, I get 4 hours and 1/6, or 4 hours and 10 minutes. Suppose that this is given by this function, where this is the price in dollars. What does the slope of this function mean in context? So the slope is -2. That represents the fact that for each dollar the price increases, 2 fewer items will be sold. For each dollar the price increases, 2 fewer items will be sold. What price should be set in order to sell 75 items? So an output of 75 and then it's 100 minus 2p. If I subtract 100, we're going to get -25 is equal to -2p. And then divide both sides by negative, you get a price equal to $12.50. What price should we sell? Should be set in order to sell 75 items? $12.50. Temperature that may be given in degrees Celsius or in degrees Fahrenheit when the freezing point of water is 32 degrees and the boiling point of water is 212. Write this equation. So if I use slope formula, y minus y would be 100 minus 0 on top, and the x minus x, the change in the x, is 212 minus 32. So this slope reduced is equal to 100 over 180, and further reduces to 5/9. There's that slope that shows up in that Fahrenheit to Celsius formula. So if I go to plug in Celsius equals 5/9 x minus x1, so we can use, and by the way, they're using Fahrenheit instead of x, minus 32 would be our formula. What is the temperature in Fahrenheit when it's 17 degrees Celsius? So let's go do the Fahrenheit formula too. Fahrenheit equals, that's working this other one backwards, 9/5 Celsius plus 32. So since this question is asking for Fahrenheit, we're going to plug into this one. 9/5 times the 17 plus 32. If you do that in a calculator, you get that Fahrenheit equals 62.6. Finally, what is the temperature in Celsius when it's 79 degrees Fahrenheit. So go grab the Celsius one. So 5/9 times 79 plus 79 minus 32 in parentheses there. And so Celsius equals, if you do that work on your calculator, it's 5/9 times 47 or 26.1 degrees Celsius. Write at least 3 different expressions that mean slope. So I could say that slope equals rise over run. That's something you guys have probably heard from middle school in Math 1. I could say that slope equals the change in y over the change in x. Delta y over delta x. See that little symbol there? It's like a little triangle that stands for delta, which is change in the Greek alphabet. Or we could use the straight up slope formula, which we have right here. We can just copy. M equals y minus y over x minus x. There's 3 ways we could say slope. All right, in order to write the equation of a line, what 2 pieces of information do you need? There may be more than one way to answer this. To write an equation in point slope form, you must know the slope and at least one point on the line. To write an equation in slope intercept form, you must know the slope and the y-intercept. You could have answered that in both ways there, and that would have been great. Cost of manufacturing soccer balls is given by this function. What is the slope of the equation and what does it mean? The slope of the equation is 7. This means that each soccer ball is $7 for the cost to produce it. What's the y-intercept? Y-intercept is 24,000. This is the fixed cost associated with production. If a manufacturer wanted to spend less than 30,000 to produce soccer balls, what is the maximum number that can be produced? Show your work. So 30,000 24,000 plus 7x. And then we're going to subtract the 24,000 from both sides. And then divide both sides by 7. And we get 857 point something estimated. Write the equation of a line that is parallel to a line connecting this to this. So we need slope formula first. So we go m equals -4 minus 5. That's my y minus y over x minus x. -1 minus 2. Be careful of all the negatives here. That leaves me -9 over -3, which reduces down to 3. So my slope is 3. Now to write the equation of a line, you can use either point. So y equals 3 x minus 2 plus 5, or use the other point. y equals 3, x minus a negative 1, x plus 1, minus 4. Both of these equations would be a right answer. Thanks for watching.